Dear colleagues, good afternoon. I am Valentin Pugachev, and today, on the framework of the project, the spokesperson of Peaceful Life, we are speaking of the entry into force of the amendments to the law on ensuring rights and liberties of internally displaced persons. It was designed to simplify the registration procedure and to allow people to adjust better in their new homes, in their new places of residence. The law also resolves the issue whether a foreigner or a person without citizenship who arrives to Ukraine, whether such a person could be the internally displaced person. And also, today we discuss amendments made on January 26 to the provisions about social support to children without parental care, children who are IDPs, etc. The Ministry of Social Policy of Ukraine suggests that the number of IDPs had raised to more than 1.5 billion, and more than 117,000 of IDPs children. And we have Zhanna Lukianenko, representative of the Ombudsman on IDPs, and Lesya Lytvynova, co-founder of Volunteer Center, a volunteer initiative center for assistance to IDPs on Frolivska St. So my question to Zhanna about IDPs. Ukraine demanded 8 months from the moment when the problem raised to pass the framework law, and 13 months to pass the more detailed law. Whether the law could be considered as full-fledged and in compliance with the international standards. With this law, we managed to ensure rights of all those people who are in the territory of Ukraine based on lawful grounds. This allows us to protect IDPs and those foreign citizens who stay in Ukraine lawfully. Also in Ukraine, we have such a thing as registration of on the place of residence in the passport. While it is not impossible to get any administrative services if you do not reside in a place where you are registered, and this created a lot of problems for IDPs. And quite often, even those women who married married and relocated to their husbands to other place of residence, and had and delayed with re-registration. They found many problems with the rise of Donbass issue. And of course, there were a lot of delays with the passage of that law, but the problems were resolved in courts. And as of today, we have developed a huge massive of court decisions about mandatory registration of those persons who relocated from other territories of Ukraine. So, but in line with the new law, if you have on any confirmation that of the moment that by the moment of relocation you really resided in, for example, the occupied territories, then you have a lawful ground to go to the authorities and re-register in a new site. So those documents, which are believed to be deemed to be the sufficient confirmation, these are your military service tickets, the records of employment, or even photo or video proofs. And now the question, how the life of the IDPs is organized in the eastern oblasts of Ukraine. I know that you recently visited them. So the aim of our visit was to see how this law has been being implemented. And back in January, when the law was just passed, and in the morning, I went to the local authority, local administration, and reminded him that any moment you can have such a client in the corridor and whether they did what to do. And they assured me that they were fully ready and knew properly what to do. By April 19th, the cabinet has some time to develop necessary bylaws. On the one hand. On the other hand, as of today, no authority, no local government can reject to implement this law based on the absence of bylaws. Whether there are any serious unresolved issues as to the rights of IDPs in this very law. Very briefly, my visit proved that we do not have any idea how to register IDP children who were relocated without parents. Each quarter we try to improve the legislation and regulations how to do this, but still these regulations are insufficient. For example, this is important for allocation of monthly aid to those children from the governments, local governments. Thank you for your comments. Now the floor goes to Lesya Lytvynova. What is your opinion about the law on the law on ensuring rights and liberties of internally displaced persons? How do you think, what is the positive impact on IDP children? The positive impact could be seen only with time when we understand how the law is being implemented, because despite the fact that law says that IDPs have the right for free accommodation during 6 months, but this is not implemented because there are no such premises available for them. The second, about IDP children, the rights are written in the law, but we do not know the facts about its proper implementation. When the law will become operational, it's not a question to me. Could you describe more about your center? What do you deal with, and what are the biggest issues as of today? Our center was organized 18 months ago. First, we dealt with the allocation of humanitarian aid that we received from Kiev, from Ukrainian diaspora, and we disseminated that aid among the IDPs immediately upon they fled from the ATO. Soon, later, we launched several investment projects, social projects, even legal projects, especially about legal aid, secondary legal aid, for example. Recently, I have read the news that your center will cut the time of its operation on a daily basis. Why it is so? Because the number of people who are living in the occupied territory is smaller. There is no need for volunteers to work 5 days a week or 6 days a week, because volunteers, they also are people, and we now we work 3 days a week, and we assist the most vulnerable groups, not just to everybody, to orphans, to elderly people, to families with many children, and to some people who are in extremely bad situation. And one more question. What are the moods among those IDPs who just relocate, whether they are angry, whether they are depressed? People try to find their place under the sun, in this new situation. These are those people who were not needed on both sides. Those who left there in occupied territory, they believe they were traitors, while people here hardly receive them, and nobody knows what will happen in the future. Thank you, Lesya. I have one more question to Zhanna about that law about IDPs. Could you please explain why an IDP should be registered, keeping in mind that negligible financial support coming from the state on the one hand, and on the other hand, that bureaucratic red tape which is needed for this? Thank you for this question. Unfortunately, today, the state cannot say that we provide a huge or big assistance, but people try to register as IDPs just in case there might be more assistance from the state. On the other hand, this is more necessary for the state in order to understand the real situation with IDPs and to have the picture of the situation in the country. So this is more necessary for the state borders. Dear colleagues, maybe you have some questions to Zhanna or to Lesya. And my next question is to Zhanna, whether you analyzed international experience in dealing with the IDPs, and maybe you have some examples what could be used out of that experience in Ukrainian situation. We analyzed the experience, and recently we had a meeting with our colleagues from the Council of Europe, and they proved that good practice for Ukraine could be created exclusively by Ukraine, because our situation is radically different because of the nature of our conflict. In situation with the Balkans, they all had a clear purpose to go back to their place of former residence, because most of those IDPs, these were farmers. While in Ukraine, the majority of IDPs come from big cities. If the big plants and enterprises in those big cities are ruined, the houses are ruined, probably IDPs won't go back. This is very much different from other international experience which we would analyze. What we might learn, what we should not do to prevent mistakes, but good practice could be created only by Ukraine itself. I absolutely agree with you. If you have further questions, you may ask them. If not, I thank you for this Skype connection, and have a nice day. Thank you. Dear colleagues, with this we finish our today's briefing on the framework of